You already know who he is. He's the one who hesitates before he speaks, the one who shrinks in rooms where he should dominate, the one who whispers maybe someday and means never. He is not your past. He is not your trauma. He is not even your fear. He is a choice you keep making every single morning. And until you name him, until you look him dead in the eye and call him exactly what he is, he will keep running your life from the shadows. Machiavelli understood something most men will die never learning. Your greatest enemy does not live outside of you. He lives in the version of you that got too comfortable, too safe, too addicted to the warmth of mediocrity. That version whispers at night, "You're not ready. The timing isn't right. What will they think?" And you listened. You let a ghost make your decisions. Here is your first truth, and it will cost you something to accept it. The weak version of you is not protecting you. He is imprisoning you. Every excuse you make, every moment you hesitate, every room you enter already defeated, you are choosing a smaller life. And the world does not mourn men who chose small. Number 2, the psychology of self-betrayal. Here is what nobody tells you. The most dangerous prison ever built has no walls, no guards, no chains. It is constructed entirely out of your own decisions. Every time you knew what you had to do and didn't do it, you laid another brick. Every time you silenced your ambition to make someone else comfortable, you poured more concrete. Every time you looked in the mirror and negotiated with your own greatness, you locked the door a little tighter. This is what Machiavelli called the fatal weakness of men who could have been great. Not lack of talent, not lack of opportunity, not lack of intelligence. It was the chronic, daily, almost ritualistic act of betraying themselves. And the most sinister part? It feels safe. Self-betrayal always disguises itself as wisdom. It calls itself patience when it is really paralysis. It calls itself humility when it is really fear wearing a noble costume. It tells you to wait, to shrink, to soften your edges so the world finds you easier to swallow. And you believed it, because it was your own voice saying it. Dark psychology teaches us something brutal about the human mind. The version of you that is afraid of greatness is not weak because it lacks strength. It is weak because it has been trained by every rejection you absorbed without processing, trained by every authority figure who told you to be realistic, trained by every environment that rewarded compliance and punished ambition. You did not choose this weakness consciously. But here is the cold Machiavellian reality. It does not matter how you got here. What matters is whether you have the ruthless self-awareness to see the cage and the cold discipline to walk out of it. Most men never do. They spend their entire lives rearranging the furniture inside their prison and calling it progress. But you are still here, still listening. And that means something in you already knows. The weak version has had enough time. His season is over. Drop in the comments right now and type, "My weakness dies today." Say it and mean it. Number 3, the Machiavellian truth about fear. Let us talk about fear, not the fear of death, not the fear of pain. Those are honest fears, primal and respectable. I am talking about the small fear, the embarrassing fear, the fear that has no claws and no teeth, but has somehow managed to sit at the head of your table and make every decision in your life. The fear of being judged, the fear of failing publicly, the fear of wanting something so badly and trying so hard and still coming up empty. That fear, the one you have dressed up in logic and called it caution, the one you have wrapped in responsibility and called it maturity. That fear has been stealing from you every single day, and it has been doing it with your full permission. Machiavelli wrote that men are driven by two forces, love and fear, and he understood something that most men never grasp. Fear, when it lives inside you, does not make you cautious. It makes you controllable. It makes you predictable. It makes you easy to manipulate, easy to overlook, and easy to replace. The man who is afraid of what others think will always be a puppet. He will always edit himself before he speaks. He will always shrink his vision to fit someone else's comfort. He will always choose the applause of the crowd over the calling of his own soul. And the crowd will still forget him by morning. Dark psychology reveals the mechanism behind this with cold precision. Fear does not just stop you from acting, it rewires you. It teaches your nervous system that safety lives in smallness. It conditions you to associate ambition with danger, visibility with threat, and greatness with arrogance. So you stay hidden, you stay average, you stay palatable, and slowly, without even noticing it, you stop reaching altogether. You call it acceptance. Machiavelli would call it surrender. The untouchable man does not conquer fear by pretending it does not exist. He conquers it by moving with such focused, cold, deliberate intention that fear simply cannot keep up. Right now in the comments, type, "Fear is fuel, not a stop sign," because that is exactly what it is. Number 4, the architecture of the untouchable man. Now we build. Because destruction without construction is just chaos, and chaos is for men without vision. You have named the weak version. You have seen the psychology of your own self-betrayal. You have looked fear in the face and called it what it is. Now it is time to understand what you are actually building toward. Not a fantasy, not a motivation poster, not some hollow affirmation you repeat in the mirror until you half believe it. I am talking about a complete psychological reconstruction. A fundamental rewiring of how you think, how you move, how you occupy space in this world. This is the architecture of the untouchable man, and it is not built from confidence alone. It is built from something far colder, far more durable, and far more dangerous than confidence ever was. The first pillar is ruthless self-knowledge. Not the comfortable kind, not the kind where you list your strengths in a journal and feel good about yourself. The brutal kind. The kind where you sit alone in silence and force yourself to see every weakness, every pattern, every lie you have been telling yourself with surgical clarity. Machiavelli was obsessed with this. He understood that the prince who cannot see himself clearly will always be manipulated by men who can. Self-deception is not a personality flaw. It is a strategic liability. The untouchable man knows exactly where he is weak because he refuses to be ambushed by his own blind spots. He studies himself the way a general studies enemy territory, with cold eyes, no sentiment, and absolute honesty. The second pillar is controlled detachment. This is where dark psychology becomes your greatest weapon. Most men are emotionally leaking everywhere. Their frustration visible, their desperation readable, their need for validation practically worn on their skin, and the world feeds on that. People, systems, and circumstances will always exploit the man who cannot control his emotional output. The untouchable man feels everything. He is not numb, he is not hollow, but he has built an iron wall between what he feels and what he shows. He has mastered the art of revealing nothing that can be used against him. His face is a controlled instrument. His words are carefully selected weapons. His silence is louder than most men's speeches. The third pillar is long-term vision over short-term comfort. This is perhaps the most Machiavellian principle of all. The weak version of you is addicted to immediate relief, the quick validation, the instant comfort, the path of least resistance that feels like rest but is actually decay. The untouchable man plays a longer game. He makes decisions not based on how they feel today, but on where they position him in 5 years, 10 years, a lifetime. He is willing to be misunderstood now in order to be undeniable later. He is willing to sacrifice the applause of the present for the legacy of the future. He plants trees whose shade he may never sit under, because he understands that greatness is not built in moments of inspiration. It is built in the 1,000 quiet moments where you chose discipline when comfort was right there, available and inviting. Drop in the comments right now and type, "I am the architect of my own power," because weak men wait for the world to build something for them. Untouchable men pick up the tools themselves. Number 5. The cold science of reinvention. Understand this clearly. Reinvention is not a motivational concept. It is not a vision board. It is not a new year, new me caption posted for validation from people who do not matter. Reinvention, in the truest Machiavellian sense, is a surgical operation performed on the self, with no anesthesia, no applause, and no audience. It is the most violent act of self-respect a man can commit. Because to truly reinvent yourself, you must be willing to kill the version of you that the world has grown comfortable with, the version they have categorized, labeled, and filed away in their minds, the version that has been playing a role so long he forgot it was a role. That version must die. Not gradually, not politely, completely. Machiavelli understood that the most powerful men in history were not born powerful. They were forged through deliberate, calculated transformation. They studied their environment with predatory precision. They identified what was working, eliminated what was not, and rebuilt themselves around a singular, uncompromising vision of who they needed to become. This was not inspiration. This was architecture. This was engineering applied to the human soul, and the process was never comfortable, never celebrated in its early stages, and never understood by the people watching from the outside. The crowd only celebrates the arrival. They never witness the reconstruction. They never see the years of cold, silent, grinding transformation that happen in the dark, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when the only thing keeping you moving is the absolute refusal to remain who you were. Dark psychology adds a layer to this that most self-help content will never dare to mention. The people around you have a psychological investment in you staying the same. Your stagnation makes them comfortable. Your limitations validate their own. Your ceiling gives them permission to stay beneath theirs. So when you begin to change, when you begin to move differently, speak differently, carry yourself with a new kind of quiet authority, do not be surprised when it disturbs them. Do not be surprised when the people who claim to support you suddenly become the loudest voices of doubt. This is not betrayal. This is psychology. They are not reacting to you. They are reacting to the mirror you are holding up to their own unlived potential. The untouchable man understands this dynamic completely. He does not argue with it. He does not seek their approval for his transformation. He simply continues, coldly, consistently, without explanation. The science of reinvention also demands that you understand the role of identity. Most men try to change their behavior without changing their identity, and this is precisely why they fail. You cannot act like a powerful man while still believing at your core that you are the boy who was told he was too much, not enough, or both, simultaneously. Behavior follows belief with ruthless consistency. Before you can move like the man you are becoming, you must think like him. You must make decisions from his perspective. You must ask, in every moment of weakness, what would the man I am becoming do right now? And then do that, even when it is hard. Especially when it is hard, because the man you are becoming was built in exactly those moments. The hard ones, the quiet ones, the ones where nobody was watching and you chose greatness anyway. Right now, in the comments, type, "I am no longer who they remember," because the reinvention has already begun. You are not the same person who pressed play on this video. Something has already shifted. Honor that shift. Feed it. Protect it with everything you have. Number 6. The power of silence and strategic invisibility. Most men talk too much. This is not an observation. It is an indictment. They talk to fill silence because silence makes them uncomfortable. They over-explain because they are secretly seeking approval. They announce their plans because they need external validation to believe in them internally. They reveal their wounds because they are hoping someone will care enough to fix them. And in doing all of this, in this constant, exhausting, desperate outpouring of words and emotions and intentions, they hand the world a complete map to every vulnerability they possess. They wonder why they are manipulated. They wonder why they are underestimated. They wonder why the rooms they walk into never seem to shift in their favor. The answer is devastatingly simple. You cannot be untouchable if you are completely readable. And most men are not just readable. They are an open book, left out in the rain on a busy street, with a sign inviting strangers to annotate the margins. Machiavelli was surgical about this. He wrote that the wise man does not say everything he thinks, but he always thinks about everything he says. Read that again. Let it land. Because in those words lives an entire philosophy of power that most men will walk past without ever grasping. Speech is not connection. Speech is not strength. In the wrong hands, at the wrong moment, speech is surrender. Every unnecessary word you speak is a brick removed from your wall. Every emotion you broadcast without strategy is intelligence handed freely to people who may use it against you. Every plan you announce before it is executed is a victory you have already begun to sabotage. The untouchable man understands that silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. Silence is presence. Silence is the psychological weight of a man who has nothing to prove and everything to protect. Dark psychology reveals why silence is so deeply unsettling to most people. Human beings are wired to seek patterns, to read signals, to predict behavior. When a man speaks constantly, he is easy to map, easy to predict, easy to manage. But the man who speaks with precision and withholds with intention, he is impossible to fully read. And what cannot be fully read cannot be fully controlled. This is strategic invisibility. Not hiding, not shrinking, not disappearing from the world out of fear. This is the deliberate, calculated management of your own narrative. It is the art of letting people know exactly what you want them to know and nothing more. It is the discipline of protecting your inner world so fiercely that the only version of you the outside world encounters is the one you have consciously chosen to present. This is not deception. This is sovereignty. There is also a deeper dimension to silence that goes beyond strategy. Silence is where your power is refined. When you stop filling every moment with noise, external noise, digital noise, the noise of other people's opinions and expectations, you create the internal space where clarity lives. The untouchable man thinks more than he speaks. He observes more than he reacts. He processes before he responds. He sits with discomfort long enough to understand it rather than immediately medicating it with distraction. In that silence, he hears things other men cannot hear. He sees patterns other men cannot see. He develops an instinct so sharp, so calibrated by consistent self-discipline and deep internal work that he can walk into any room, any negotiation, any conflict, and read the entire landscape before most men have even finished their opening sentence. And then there is the silence after the storm. When someone provokes you, disrespects you, or attempts to diminish you in front of others, the weak version of you scrambles to respond, to defend, to prove. The untouchable man goes quiet. Not because he has nothing to say, but because he understands that the most devastating response is often no response at all. Let them wonder. Let them fill the silence with their own anxiety. Let their words hang in the air, unanswered, until they feel the full weight of their own insignificance. Your silence in those moments is not weakness. It is the coldest, most calculated form of dominance available to a man who has truly mastered himself. Right now, drop in the comments and type, "My silence speaks louder than your noise," because the man who has mastered his silence has mastered his power, and the world will feel that, whether it understands it or not. Number 7. The Machiavellian art of cutting dead weight. There is a conversation most men are never willing to have with themselves. It is the conversation about who and what they need to permanently remove from their lives in order to become who they are destined to be. Not temporarily distance, not politely reduce contact with, remove, completely, permanently, without guilt, without ceremony, and without the need for them to understand why. Because here is the cold truth that soft philosophy will never tell you. Not every relationship in your life is a resource. Some are liabilities. Some are anchors disguised as companions. Some are slow leaks in the vessel you are trying to sail toward greatness. And no amount of loyalty, history, or emotional attachment changes the mathematical reality that a man moving toward power cannot afford to carry dead weight indefinitely. The weak version of you will argue with this. He will call it cold. He will call it selfish. He will remind you of shared memories and years invested. The untouchable man recognizes this argument for exactly what it is, sentiment being weaponized against his own evolution. Machiavelli was ruthlessly clear on this point. He understood that the prince who surrounds himself with mediocre men becomes mediocre by proximity. He wrote that the first opinion formed of a ruler's intelligence is based on the quality of the men he keeps around him. Think about what that means for your life right now. Look at your inner circle with cold, honest, unflinching eyes. Are the people closest to you pulling you upward or quietly holding you in place? Are their conversations expanding your vision or recycling the same comfortable limitations? Are they honest with you in ways that challenge your growth, or are they agreeable in ways that protect your ego while starving your potential? Because the people who only tell you what you want to hear are not your allies. They are the most sophisticated form of enemy, the kind that smiles while they stunt you. Dark psychology identifies this pattern with brutal precision. It is called the crab bucket mentality, and it operates with terrifying consistency in the lives of men who are trying to rise. The moment you begin to climb, certain people in your environment will, consciously or unconsciously, begin to pull you back. Not always through open sabotage, sometimes through subtle discouragement disguised as concern, sometimes through jokes that carry just enough edge to chip at your confidence, sometimes through their own visible unhappiness with their lives, which creates an atmosphere so heavy with stagnation that ambition feels almost inappropriate in their presence. You have felt this. You know exactly who these people are. The question is not whether you can see them. The question is whether you love your future enough to make the hard decision about them. Cutting dead weight is not an act of arrogance. It is an act of surgical self-preservation. It is the recognition that your time, your energy, and your mental space are finite and sacred resources, and that every hour you invest in relationships that drain rather than build is an hour stolen from the architecture of your greatness. The untouchable man is not heartless. He is precise. He understands the difference between people who are going through difficult seasons and people who have made difficulty their permanent address. He gives generously to those who are genuinely growing alongside him, but he has developed the cold discipline to recognize when a relationship has become a ceiling rather than a ladder. And when that moment arrives, he does not hesitate. He does not negotiate. He redirects his energy with the calm, deliberate certainty of a man who understands that his future is non-negotiable. Your environment is not just a backdrop to your life. It is an active participant in either your rise or your stagnation. Choose every element of it with the same intentionality, the same strategic precision, and the same ruthless clarity that you would apply to any other critical decision about your future. Because the company you keep is not just a reflection of who you are. It is a prediction of who you will become. Drop in the comments right now and type, "I protect my energy like I protect my vision." Because the man who guards his environment guards his destiny. And that man is untouchable. Number 8, the discipline of becoming dangerous. Let us be precise about what the word dangerous means in this context, because the world has watered it down, softened its edges, and turned it into something theatrical and hollow. When I say dangerous, I do not mean violent. I do not mean reckless. I do not mean the cheap, performative aggression of a man who needs the world to fear him because he secretly fears himself. That is not danger. That is desperation wearing a mask. When I say dangerous, I mean the kind of man who has so completely mastered his mind, his emotions, his craft, and his vision that he becomes genuinely difficult to stop. The kind of man whose commitment is so absolute, whose focus is so locked, whose standards are so uncompromising that the average world simply does not know how to handle him. That is dangerous. That is the version of you that the weak version is terrified of becoming. Because once that man emerges, there is no going back, no returning to smallness, no pretending that mediocrity was ever acceptable. Machiavelli understood that true power is not given, it is cultivated. It is earned through the kind of sustained, unglamorous, relentless discipline that most men abandon the moment it stops feeling inspiring. And here lies the great deception of motivation. It feels like fuel, but it burns like paper. It ignites quickly, burns brightly, and disappears completely the moment conditions become difficult. The untouchable man does not run on motivation. He runs on systems. He runs on identity. He runs on the cold, unshakable commitment to a standard he has set for himself that exists completely independent of how he feels on any given morning. He does not negotiate with his discipline based on his mood. He does not postpone his standards because the circumstances are inconvenient. He shows up, precisely, consistently, and without fanfare, because showing up is not something he decides each day. It is something he decided once, at the deepest level of his identity, and has never revisited. Dark psychology teaches us that discipline is one of the most psychologically intimidating qualities a human being can possess, not because it is loud, but because it is consistent. Consistency is rare. Consistency is unsettling to people who have normalized chaos in their own lives. When a man shows up the same way every single day, same standards, same focus, same quiet intensity, regardless of external circumstances, he creates an aura that most people cannot articulate, but everyone can feel. They feel it in the way he enters a room. They feel it in the economy of his words. They feel it in the complete absence of desperation in everything he does. And that feeling, that invisible, almost atmospheric quality of a man who is completely anchored in his own purpose, is more commanding than any display of force, more persuasive than any carefully constructed argument, and more attractive than any external symbol of success he could ever acquire. The discipline of becoming dangerous also means developing an obsessive, almost monastic relationship with your craft. Whatever domain you have chosen as your arena, master it with the kind of devotion that borders on irrational. Study it when others are sleeping. Refine it when others are socializing. Push its boundaries when others have accepted its limitations. Because mastery is the ultimate form of power in a world drowning in mediocrity. The man who is undeniably excellent at what he does not need to demand respect. He does not need to announce his value. He does not need to compete for position. His competence speaks with a volume and authority that no amount of charm, networking, or self-promotion can replicate or replace. Excellence is the coldest, most irrefutable argument a man can make for his own worth. The weak version of you wants results without the process. He wants the throne without the war. He wants the harvest without ever having turned the soil in the dark, alone, with no guarantee of rain. The untouchable man knows that the process is not the price of greatness. The process is the point. Every session of discipline, every moment of chosen discomfort, every standard maintained when breaking it would have been so much easier. These are not sacrifices. They are deposits into a version of yourself that compounds with terrifying interest over time. Drop in the comments right now and type, "Discipline is my most dangerous weapon," because the man who has mastered himself has mastered everything worth mastering. Number 9. The moment you become untouchable. This is the moment most men never reach. Not because they lack talent, not because the world was stacked against them, not because the timing was wrong or the resources were scarce or the circumstances were unkind. They never reach this moment because they could not endure the in-between. The brutal, unglamorous, invisible stretch of time between who you were and who you are becoming, where nothing feels certain, nothing feels validated, and the only thing you have to navigate by is the cold, unwavering conviction that what you are building is real even when nothing around you confirms it yet. That in-between is where most men turn back. That is where the weak version mounts his most convincing argument. That is where doubt disguises itself as wisdom and retreat disguises itself as strategy. And the men who cannot see through that disguise, they return to smallness and spend the rest of their lives explaining why greatness was never really meant for them anyway. Machiavelli wrote that there is nothing more difficult to execute, more doubtful of success, and more dangerous to administer than to introduce a new order of things. He was talking about kingdoms. He was talking about political power. But he was also, whether he intended it or not, describing the internal war every man must fight when he decides to fundamentally transform himself. Because introducing a new order of things within yourself means dismantling the old order completely. It means dethroning the beliefs, the habits, the identities, and the limitations that have governed your inner world for years, sometimes for decades. And those structures do not surrender quietly. They fight back. They use your own memories against you. They use your own voice. They wear the faces of people you trust. And the man who does not understand that this resistance is not a sign of failure, but a sign that the transformation is real and significant, will always mistake the war for the defeat. Dark psychology identifies the precise moment a man becomes untouchable. And it is not the moment he achieves something visible. It is not the moment he acquires wealth, status, or recognition. It is a deeply internal moment that happens in private, often in silence, with no audience and no applause. It is the moment a man stops needing external validation to believe in his own worth. It is the moment his identity becomes so anchored, so solid, so completely his own, that the opinions of others, their approval, their criticism, their attempts to define or diminish him, simply lose their gravitational pull. They still exist. He is not oblivious to them, but they no longer have the power to alter his trajectory. They no longer have access to the controls. And when a man reaches that place, that unreachable, unshakable internal fortress, something shifts in the way the world responds to him. People feel it before they can explain it. They sense the absence of neediness, the absence of performance, the complete and total self-containment of a man who has nothing to prove and nowhere to hide, because he has already faced the worst version of himself and chose to become something greater. The untouchable man carries his past without being carried by it. He has processed every failure, every humiliation, every moment of weakness, not with bitterness, not with shame, but with the cold, appreciative understanding that every one of those experiences was sharpening him, filing his edges, burning away everything that was never truly him to begin with. He is grateful for the darkness because the darkness revealed exactly how much light he was capable of generating on his own. He does not need the world to be kind to him because he has developed the internal resources to be formidable regardless of conditions. He does not need the circumstances to be perfect because he has trained himself to extract power from imperfect circumstances, the way a master extracts gold from raw, unrefined ore. You are closer to this moment than you think. The fact that you have stayed this far, that you have listened this deeply, that something in these words has been landing with the weight of recognition rather than the lightness of novelty. That means the untouchable man is already forming inside you. He has been forming this entire time. Every section of this video has been a layer of his armor. Every truth you accepted has been a brick in his foundation. Now it is your responsibility, not your option, not your consideration, your responsibility to protect that formation, to feed it, to refuse every invitation back to smallness with the quiet, absolute authority of a man who has seen what he is capable of and will never again pretend otherwise. Drop in the comments right now and type, "I am no longer who they remember," because that person is gone. And what is rising in his place is something the world is not yet prepared for. If this video reached something inside you that most content never touches, then you are exactly where you need to be. Hit that like button right now, subscribe to Machiavellian Mind, and turn on notifications, because what is coming next will go even deeper. The weak version of you found this channel by accident. The untouchable version of you will stay here on purpose.